Welcome to the Influencers Journey Show. Today's topic is how to plan your content and increase your profits for 2023. So, one of the things that I thought would have or would be really great to start off this conversation is to talk about why you need a content plan. So, let me just ask, how many of you have sat down and you are thinking about your 2023 and you are planning your business strategy, you are planning your business goals, and then you are writing out your plan, your action plan for 2023. If you have started that process, I know we have been doing a series of videos on that over the past few weeks. So if you have actually started the process, go ahead and drop a note inside of the comment section and let me know that yes, I'm tracking. And then with that being said, have you started to take a look at your action plan for your social media? So, one of the things that I want to talk about is, why do you need to have a plan for your content for social media? And this is what I like to call it. I like to say this is where the rubber hits the road for your social media. This is where you are going to set yourself up to take action and you are going to implement on your social media. So, this is the time for you to decide what you will be creating for 2023, for what platforms you'll be positioning on. You'll start to lay out your plan, what formats of content you'll be creating. And when you take a look at your goals, does your goals for your social media line up with your overarching business goals? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, one of the first things that I would like everyone, as they take a look at their content plan, to start with is taking a look at defining their divine clients. And I know Suzanne and we are digging deep into this work this month. We are back at the drawing board, honing in and tweaking and making adjustments and just taking a look at all of the data that 2022 has provided us and getting super clear on those people who we are called to serve. Okay. And so knowing who your divine client is the very first step. And so once again, this is the time of the year, if you have not done that as yet, to revisit it and take a look at everything that you have learned about your divine clients, about your audience, about your tribe members, and do a compilation at this time of the year. And then the second question that you want to ask yourself, what is it that your audience wants from you? So you've done some time or spent some time defining who your divine clients are. And then the next question should be, what do they want? Okay, what type of content does my audience or my divine clients want to see? And then after you spend some time defining that, then you need to take a look at how will you get that content out into the marketplace. Okay. And so some of the realistic things to start to take a look at is, how often will you be publishing content on social media? And this is one of the areas that I find that a lot of people really get caught up in and they get stuck, is underestimating the time that it takes to really execute on their social media plan. So, what do I mean by this? So, when you take a look at your social media, are you building into you doing videos? Let's use that as an example. So are you committing, to posting, whether it's long videos, short videos, live videos, pre-recorded videos? How often will you be publishing that? Are you publishing 5 days a week, 3 days a week, 1 day a week? Are you certain and are you clear? Because here's one of the things that I know. I know that your audience, the internet, expects consistency. And so part of your plan is building in consistency. And I'm going to take a minute to really stop and define, give you Taria's definition of consistency. So, we're talking about content planning. One of the things that I've learned is to define consistency for my audience. So, what do I mean by that? Consistency doesn't mean that you have to show up all day, every day on social media. So, how many of you think that that's the definition of consistency, right? That when you are, on social media platforms, you have to post 3 times a day, you have to post 6 times a day on some platforms, you have to post twice a week. Here's what I've learned is best for you to create your own schedule and commit to that schedule. So, what do I mean by that? For example, if you are producing video content, realistically speaking, how often can you publish that? So, are you doing live videos once a week, twice a week? If you could do 3 times a week, then you build that into your calendar and you stick to it. If it's once a week, you build that into your schedule and you stick to it. Because here's why: your audience will come to expect that level of consistency from you. So you have the ability to create your own schedule and know how often you will be publishing. And the key is to go ahead and stick to it. So if you are writing content and you're putting content out there in post format, how often are you committing to do that a week? Are you committing to do that 3 times a week? Is it 5 times a week? Is it 3 times a day? Whatever that is for you, be consistent around it. Okay. And then the next thing that I want to talk about as we are producing or talking about producing content, another key factor to set yourself up for success is to actually take a look at your budget. Okay, so do you have a budget for your social media? And this is one of the things that if you don't have a budget, you should be building in a budget for your social media in 2023. So as you take a look at all the things that are required to produce and stay consistent on social media, you've probably figured that it's a lot. And this is where people get that overwhelm when it comes to producing content because they think that they need to do it all by themselves. And I am here to say that when I started, yes, I started doing a lot of things by myself. But as my business continued to expand and grow, then I realized that I needed help. And I started to take a look at the things that I needed to get off my plate and to build my team around my social media. So, and it takes money to do that. So, realistically speaking, are you planning or are you building out a budget for your social media? And I'm going to stick to the example of video once again because it's like my favorite format to produce content. So if when you're doing your videos, have you built into your budget the things that you need for your setup for your video? So have you built in a budget for your camera? Have you built in budget for your lighting? All of these things are important. So have you built in into your budget things like editing your video? Are you able, do you possess the skill to do that on your own, or do you need to hire someone to do that? Have you taking a look at what it may cost you to have someone, post your social media on your behalf? So this is another thing. And like I said, I understand when I started out doing these things, I started out doing all of these things on my own. So I definitely understand that it's very easy to get overwhelmed. But as you continue to grow, one of the things that you need to do is start to think about what are the things that you are solely responsible for, the things that need to get done by you, and things that you could start to outsource or build a team around. And then as you take a look at those things, now is the time for you to start to think about how much that is going to cost you. And then after you start to think about that, one of the other things that I want you to keep in mind with social media is in regards to your content, Overall, generally speaking, what type of content will you be creating? So, are you, and I talked about this on one of our last episodes, when you create your content, are you creating content that's going to go away? Or are you focusing on creating evergreen content, content that you will be able to use and repurpose, content that has a long or extended lifetime? Okay, so that's the difference. So, and it's a very huge thing because there's a lot of things that you can now do on social media, a lot of places that you could show up. So there's video content that will last forever on your social media unless you take it down. And then there are contents such as stories and your reels that go away after 24 hours, or stories actually that go away after 24 hours. So are you keeping that in mind too? And if you are following, that pattern, then you know that those things are very much short lived. And so are you in the process of being able to stay consistent and create that type of content? Or are you creating evergreen content that you could repurpose, on different platforms, use over and over again? Or are you doing a combination of both, having those trendy, content pieces, and also incorporating evergreen content pieces? And if you ask me, my opinion is you should have both. So these are just some of the things that, when we talk about why you need to have a content plan, these are some of the things that you really need to sit down and take an honest look at where you are in your business. What are your goals? What are the things that you want to do, the things that you want to accomplish, and what's required to set you up for success to do that? Okay. And so the next thing that I want us to dive into is to take a look at what are your goals, and so what are you hoping to achieve with your content? And I'm going to say, like I said in the beginning, when I started this, not having a clear plan for my content when I created on social media was one of the biggest sources of frustration for me in the business. And it's one of the things that I hear, clients complain about, or get frustrated around, is because, what? Their content goals, what they're producing, what they're doing on their social media doesn't quite align or match up to what they want to accomplish in their business. So, with that being said, let's kind of break this down, and I'm going to use three examples. So, one of the things that we should all be looking at as entrepreneurs, if you're a coach or a consultant, out there, you have a business, is how are you increasing your brand awareness? So, do you have a strategy for brand awareness? And do you have clear goals around your brand awareness? And so, there are markers that you should be looking at when it comes to your social media that will let you know if you are tracking for brand awareness. Okay. And so, what does that mean? So, as you take a look at your social media, you're creating your content. Are you putting content out there that allows your divine clients, your audience, your tribe to say, you know what? I see myself in your content. I see you as the person, the influencer that could help solve my problem. This is one of the reasons why video is so key on social media. Video is one of the easiest ways and the quickest ways for you to get eyes on your brand. And so I talk about this all the time. What are the things that you're going to do out there that would allow your brand to get more exposure? Okay, so that's one of the goals that you might have, for your social media in 2023. You know what I want to do? I want to go ahead and increase my following on my business pages. I want to increase my connections on LinkedIn. I want to, increase my subscribers on YouTube, grow my Instagram following, whatever that is for you. What is it that you're going to do, or what is the type of content that you are going to produce out there that would allow you to do that? Or say you might have a goal of credibility, that you want to be seen as the expert. Okay, so what type of content are you producing or are you showcasing, in your social media that would allow people to see you as the expert? So it goes back once again, tying in to knowing who you are called to serve, who is your divine clients, what are the things that they struggle with, what are their pain point, what's the transformation that they want to achieve, and then how can the content that you produce allow them to solve that problem. So that's the type of focus that you need to have when you are creating your content plan. Okay, so those are just two examples of taking a look at goals. And like I say this all the time, there are so many goals that you could have and you could set. This is the time of the year that you need to take a minute, to sit down and write these things out. Don't let the doors of 2023 open and you have not done these things as yet. Okay, and talking about being able to set goals, one of the things that I want to share, that if you haven't thought about it in this way, for everything that you do in your business and in your social media, you should have cycles. So one of the things that I encourage, clients, and this is also part of my plan, some of the cycles that I take a look at in business is having, a nurture cycle. So do you know when you are producing content out there that would allow you to nurture and build relationships with your audience? Okay, that's a key focus. So, how do you do that? And in particularly saying this, one of the things that I say all the time is that if you're an entrepreneur out there, especially if you are a coach or a consultant, you need to have some type of online community. So, do you have your online community where you have your tribe members that raise their hand and say, I want to learn more about you? Where you're giving yourself the opportunity to learn more about your audience as well. So, what are the times of the year when you take a look at your cycle that you're going to create that nurture? What are the times that you're going to promote? We all have products and services, right? So do you have a promotional cycle in your business? And this is, once again, when it comes to taking a look at your content, what you need to think about. So what when you are in your promotional cycle, what type of content will you produce for your promotional cycle? Then sales cycle, what type of content will you produce when it comes to your sales cycle? Okay, so these are, like I said, some of the things as you sit down, to take a look at. Really, really give it some thought and put these things down on paper, knowing exactly when these things fall, in the year, and make sure you're calendaring them. Because one of the things that I see a lot of and that people struggle with is that they're either on one side or the other side of the spectrum. And so, what do I mean by that? A lot of entrepreneurs have a tendency of showing up on social media only when it's time to promote. How many of you know people like that? Like you only see them online when they're promoting something. And so, what their content looks like, it's always in promotion. And you really or rarely get the opportunity to know them, understand what their brand stands for, their message. All you see is the promotion. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have others who are on social media. They have a business, but you're not able to tell exactly what they do in their business because they kind of stay on the light side of the content. So they aren't clearly establishing authority in the marketplace. We don't know what they do. We have no idea what their message is. We don't know when they're promoting, certain programs or offers that they have. We aren't clear when they are in that cycle. Okay, and so don't be that entrepreneur. Once again, define these times. And And if you take a look at it, it all goes back to your business plan. So, how are you running the business? What are you doing as far as your business goals? And how are you using social media and your content to help support those overall arching business goals? Okay, so I'm hoping that this makes sense to everyone. Okay. And then the third thing that I want to bring to mind is, how are you using your content to get to your goal? So, how are you using your content to get there? So, once again, it all goes back to taking a look at who your divine client is, being very clear on who that person is, knowing what's your message into the marketplace, knowing clearly what is the problem that you're solving for them. And then after you hone in on these three things, the next question I would like for you to ask yourself is, where are your divine clients hanging out? Do you know? Okay, so do you know if they're hanging out on Facebook? Do you know if they're hanging out on LinkedIn? Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Where exactly is your divine client? And I always say, once you identify that, those are the platforms that you need to focus on positioning your brand. Okay. So that's where your heaviest strategy should be, on the platforms where your divine clients are hanging out. Okay. And then after you have answered that question, what platforms are my divine clients on? Then the next question you should be asking is, what type of content should I be producing that fits each platform? Now, I'm going to tell you, this is a huge one, knowing what type of content you're going to create. So it takes understanding and knowing the purpose behind each platform, what drives each platform, what that platform wants its users to experience. That's the best way that I could put it. Okay. And so one of the things that, yeah, take a look at, and I'm going to take a look at, um, um, let's take a look at Instagram for a second. So, do you know the reason why Instagram was created? Right? So, Instagram was created as a way for its users to easily share photos. That's the purpose. That's why Instagram was created, for its users to be able to share photos and create that experience around for their audience around photos. Now, it has evolved to now include video, but not just any type of video, short form videos that users can consume within a minute or less. And even if we're getting into talking about reels, oh my gosh, I looked at a program and a strategy just last week where it's not even about doing a minute reel anymore. It's about doing reels in 6 seconds, right? So, content that your audience could quickly consume, and they could watch, and they could perhaps share with their audience as well, of their network as well. So, as you take a look at that, if you're hanging your hat on Instagram, what does it take? For you to create and produce that type of content on a regular basis? Do you have all the things, all the pieces that are necessary to do that? So, once again, it goes back to planning, right? So, are you setting up with your camera? Do you have all the necessary tools, your lighting kit, all of that stuff that you need? Who's going to help you if you can't produce videos on your own? Who do you have on your team that will help you produce the videos, or even help you edit the videos? And then knowing, how often are you going to share these types of videos? So if you're doing, your reels out there, are you putting reels out every day? Maybe. Or are you putting your reels out maybe 3 times a week, 1 times a week? You have the ability, to set your consistency. All I say is, you need to stick to it. Okay. And then going back once again, it's all about how does this fit into your schedule. So as you take a look at your plan, don't neglect this part. Build it into your schedule. So do you have a day that you are going to record? Do you have a day set aside that you are going to plan what it is you're going to record? So that's one of the things that Suzanne and I do in our day-to-day marketing activity. We have clear times that we plan our content. We have a day that we just sit and all we do is write our content, and we take a look at what we're going to share with our audience throughout the course of the week. And that's content for email marketing, content for social media, content for the influencers journey show. So are you putting that on your plan? Okay, so that's also part of your content plan. And then all the things that make the production, the final production happen, needs to go into your plan so you aren't missing any of those steps. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take a minute and just answer any questions that may be coming up for you out there as you are tuning in to today's broadcast. So as you take a look at your content plan, what are some of the things that are coming up for you? I want to hear from you. So how did you think that you did in 2022? And then what are some of the things that you are looking forward to changing or maybe implementing in 2023? Take a minute, drop that inside of the comments and let me know. So I see Facebook users out there saying connecting from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Thank you so much, my friends, north of the border. And in my business, I serve professionals who are wanting more in their life and wanting to choose thriving over surviving. So I'm going to take a guess and I'm going to say that's Patricia. So if that's you, Patricia, just go ahead, put your name in the comments and let me know that you are out there with me. And Stephanie, I'm shouting you out this morning because you said that you have started your planning process already. So kudos to you for starting the process early. Thank you. And then also Facebook users saying, I am planning my content for 2023. Exactly. Now is definitely the time that you need to start doing this. And I see that Zayla Jackson is out there. Great morning, Zayla. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining this morning. And thank you for giving me a compliment on my setup. Thank you so much. And thank you for saying that this is really good content. So yeah, give me the opportunity to let me know where you are, where you're standing, with your content plan for 2023, or things that tripped you up in 2022 that I may be able to answer for you and give you a head start, that jump start going into 2023. Okay, and then Stephanie, I see that you have a question. Stephanie is asking, when are the cycles on your calendar? So, Stephanie, that's a really great question. So, one of the things that I shared is taking a look at different cycles that you can have or you should have in your business. So one of them is the nurture cycle. And I'm going to break these down for you, Stephanie, just to give you an idea. So thank you for the question. So some of the cycles that I have identified and I pay attention to in my business, definitely Suzanne and I, when we're working together, we take a look at this, right? So nurture cycle, promotional cycle, sales cycle, and a post sale cycle. So when we talk about the nurture cycle, and this is how I became present to having a nurture cycle in my business. When I first started out, it was one of those things that people said that, oh, you need to be on social media. Social media, and like I said, this is probably like 10 years ago, right? You need to be on social media. Why? Because of the sheer amount of people who are on social media, it's a great place for you to position your products and services. And in the beginning, it was awesome. It didn't take much to be on social media to attract and convert clients. But guess what? As more and more entrepreneurs and business owners got onto the platforms and social media got a wind to it, what happened? More and more competition started to enter the marketplace. And so for people on social media, they started to really ask the question, who am I doing business with? So they want to know, especially in the coaching and consultant space, who am I really doing business with? And so if you can identify with this, just go ahead and let me know. So it seems like what happened is that that started to slow down for me, and I started putting things out there and realized that, you know what, I'm not getting as much engagement for my promotions, for my offers. I'm not getting the conversions that I desire. You hear me talk about this all the time. When I launched my brand back in when I interned for a company for 5 years, and then in 2016 I launched my own personal brand, and I was so shocked to know that conversions, building my audience was hard. I thought it was going to be easy. So I really had to get present to this. Being able to give my audience the opportunity to know me, to understand my brand, to get my message into the marketplace. Okay. And so there's a cycle and nurture. And when we talk about the nurture cycle, I said your nurture cycle is a continuous cycle. So this is one of the things that you should be doing, all year round. Giving yourself the opportunity to put out content out there that would allow your audience to get to know who you are, know your message, okay? And you have the opportunity to start building relationships with your audience. So that's your nurture cycle. And the reason why I talk about this, because when you get ready to go into your promotion cycle, and so for you, Stephanie, I know you are getting ready to launch your book, right? So now is the time for you to start having, those conversations in the marketplace around the problem that you are solving. Why is your book so important? What is it that you want people to understand about your business and how you could help them? What's the problem that you're solving? So by the time you're ready to kick off your book launch and you're promoting your book, you would have people already saying, oh my gosh, I get it. Stephanie is the person. I identify with her. Okay. And then that's your promotional cycle. So it's like layers. Okay. And then your sales cycle. So if you are, once again, a coach or consultant, and you are running programs, what times of year are you planning your launches? Okay, so are you doing a launch once a year, depending on your program? For some people, it might be. Are you launching programs twice a year, 4 times a year, 6 times a year? What's your sales cycle? Those things go on your calendar. Okay. And then what happens after your sales? So you have a post sales cycle. This is when, after you do your launch, this is another big thing that people miss. People do launches all the time, and they think that the last day of the thing that they launch, that's it. Okay, no. What happens, after your launch? What happens? Are you giving yourself time to follow up with people? So is that a week? Is that 2 weeks after that you are actually engaging, getting on the phone and saying, hey, let's talk about the program and see if this is a right fit for you. So having a post sales cycle. Okay, so as you take a look at these things need to go on your calendar. So I'm hoping that that makes sense. Okay, so Sean is saying, great content and really simplified. Thank you so much for that, Sean. Yes, Patricia, I thought it was you. Yay. And oh, Sean, you're connecting all the way from India. Thank you so much for joining this morning. So Sean is saying he's looking forward to utilizing AI more in content planning and data analysis. So, Sean, that's really, really great. AI is all of the rage right now, and having platforms or systems that will allow you to have AIs, which is artificial intelligence, for those of you who don't know or not familiar with the term, help you with your content, is absolutely amazing. And so we are also taking a look at that in our content as well. We write a lot of our own content here for the influencers journey show and the things that we do, but being able to have AI take a look at those algorithms and just help kick out content like on steroids is absolutely amazing. So thank you for that share. So Pamela is saying, great morning, Pamela. Thank you for joining. Looking forward to creating content on Instagram and increase my YouTube following. I started a plan. I just need a nice strategy. Awesome. So yes, so that is one of the big things, Pamela, is to knowing what your strategy is for your social media, and then also being able to plan that out. So once again, when you take a look at platforms such as YouTube and Instagram, you're increasing your following. I know ultimately you want to be able to convert into clients. So what exactly is the game plan in order for you to do that? So it's more than just putting your content or putting videos out there on YouTube. Start to think, after you produce your content on YouTube, what are the methods that you're going to use to drive people back to your YouTube channel to see your content? And then once people land on your YouTube channel and they watch your content, what's the mechanism that you have in place that would allow your conversions to happen? How are you converting? Okay. And the same thing goes for Instagram. The same thing goes for any platform that we're using as far as social media. Part of your strategy is laying out step by step what is going to happen with your content, not only as you produce it, but after that content is published, developing that roadmap for your audience to step them along that journey to converting into clients. So great question or great comment, Pamela. Thank you so much for that. So I think this is Patricia again that's saying, hi, Taria. Good morning. I took a leap and hosted a podcast. I'm using it as a backdrop. Now I host a speaking tour. Ooh, I love that. And I'll be building in content in preparation to do that. Yes. And that's exactly what it is all about, because I'm going to tell you, I can't say how many times I have met with entrepreneurs, clients, colleagues out there who have an idea to launch a podcast, whether it's a video podcast, audio podcast, and they start off excited about doing that. And then guess what? Midway, or sometimes they don't even get midway, they run out of steam, and that's because they didn't have a clear plan for the content. So part of the content plan is also mapping out those conversations. So are you able to map out your conversations for a whole 12 months? Okay. And so, whether you do your podcast, a daily podcast, or you do a weekly podcast, once again, you have the ability to define your schedule. But with that being said, when you take a look at it, do you know what you are going to talk about each week? What are you going to talk about every day? That goes in as part of your content plan. And then realistically speaking, do you have the bandwidth to produce? What does it take in order for you to produce? Okay, time wise, resources wise, all of that goes into it. So congratulations to you on your podcast. I love it. Hoo. So Zayla, you have another question. I love it. Is it wise to be on more than one platform? I'm starting a podcast for professional moms getting into technology. So first, let me just say this. I love your topic that you're going to talk about technology, and women is always a winner. So kudos to you, Zayla. I'm excited for you already. So is it wise to be on more than one platform? So here's the answer that I share, and I've followed this strategy myself, and I also implement this for my clients. The first thing that I would do is I would go back to basics, Zayla. and I would first do the assignment or the legwork of first knowing, who's the audience you're serving. So you're serving professional moms getting into technology. So as you take a look at your professional moms, ask yourself the question, where are they hanging out? So where are you most likely to find them? So are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube? Where are they? And then what I would do if I were you, I would develop a strong strategy for that platform. So what I recommend is that if you're starting out, one or two platforms that you would have a strong strategy and you would implement consistently. Okay. And the reason why I say that, once again, when it comes to developing content, as you heard me say, different platforms have different forms or take different forms of content. So if you are just new, especially if you're just new and you're just starting out, I don't know what your business looks like. I don't know if you have a team to help you produce or if you're doing things on your own. So if you're doing things on your own, focus on one or two platforms, create a strategy, and start establishing consistency that would lead to your success. Okay. If you have a team, that's that's working with you and you could develop clear strategies, for three or four, then I would say go for it. Okay. But my thing is, I never take on a platform unless I have a solid strategy for that platform, because it's one of the things that quickly leads to burnout and frustration when you are putting in energy and effort into a social media platform and you aren't getting the results because you aren't clear on the strategy. Okay. So it's very easy to spread yourself very thinly on social media. And so I'm not for the overwhelm and not for the stress. Okay. So just let me know if that makes sense for you. Yes, and I see Stephanie is saying, start the conversation now, put it on the calendar. And Stephanie is saying, personal brand versus business brand. Do they have to merge? Do you keep them both separate accounts? Is a transition needed from simple personal posting to business posting? Okay, so here's what's really cool. That's my grandbaby knocking on the door. So here's what's really cool about the question that you're asking, Stephanie. And I'm just going to take a look at Facebook for a second. So I'm going to give you this example for Facebook, but you could also apply this, to other social media platforms as well. So when you take a look at a social media platform, it's also very important for you to understand the different facets or the different things that happen on that social media platform. So I love Facebook because it's so multifaceted. What do I mean by that? So you have the ability to establish your personal brand. That's why you have personal pages on Facebook. And then your business brand. You have business pages on Facebook. Going back to implementing your or your content plan, or creating a content plan, I should say, it's knowing what type of content goes on your personal profile and what type of content goes on the business profile. So the easiest way that I like to break this down is when you take a look at your business page, Stephanie, this is where your best content should live. Okay, so when people land on your business page, what do they see as your business? So, coach, consultant, what is your business? And how are you clearly showcasing content there that would let people know how you can serve them? Okay, so business page. On your personal page, this gives an insight of as to who Stephanie the person is. Now, I know that this can be quite scary for a lot of people because I get this all the time. Okay. Like, what do I post on social media that allows me to stay private and not have social media be this intrusive thing? So, one of the things that I share all the time is that you should develop 5 topics or 5 categories of things that you're going to talk about on your personal page, and which will give you, a clear roadmap and boundaries to stay in, so you don't feel that you're oversharing or you're sharing too much information. So here's an example. Some of them could be lifestyle, it could be personal development, it could be family. I post about my family all the time. I have grandbabies. I like to talk about my dad, like that's my favorite guy. So I know whatever it is I put out on my personal page, people get the opportunity to see who I am. Travel is another one that I share all the time. So most of my audience know that what I do, I spend half of the year in the US mainland and the other half of the year in the sunny Virgin Islands, right? And so those are clear topics that I use that would allow my audience to get an insight to know more of who I am, but yet still I'm comfortable enough that I'm not overstepping any personal boundaries, or I'm not sharing too much personal information about myself. Okay. And so those are the things that you can do. And yes, they do come together and they work beautifully, because here's the thing: very rarely are people going to land on Facebook and not see your personal profile. They're going to see your personal profile, Stephanie, before they get to the business. Okay? So what is it? The question becomes, what is it that you want them to see, or what is it that you want them to know about you on your personal profile that would make your audience endear to you, okay, and know that you are the person that's called to serve them. And then when they head on over to your business page, can they clearly see how you help them, in your business? So I hope that that answers and